What's going on, everybody? We are officially within striking distance of Cowboys training camp. We have nearly 2 weeks, and I just posted on my community tab about this part of the offseason is so tough to get through, but I promise we're getting through it. I have another video for you guys today. I was doing my little, Cowboys news updates, checking around, making sure I didn't miss anything on the interweb, reading about some stuff with Dak Prescott's youth camp and all of that. Then I came across this article, NFL Offseason Power Rankings by Yahoo Sports. This one right here, I don't know if I can agree with this. With how the NFL is continuously disrespecting the Cowboys this year. So, let's get into it. Usually I try to keep away from these kinds of power rankings. These guys, typically the ones that are writing the articles, do not cover the team. They cannot possibly watch and keep up with every NFL roster, their moves, their offensive scheme, their coaches, what they're planning to do, blah, 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 right? But this article, I was reading through it, and I thought they did a really good job of breaking down the Cowboys and all other 31 NFL teams. So if you want to go check it out and see where they sit, we're going to talk about it. But they did a good job, right? Going through their offseason moves, explaining what the Cowboys did, what their ceiling is, what's the floor, and then ultimately where they sit in these power rankings. And I'm not going to wait any longer. 18th overall. 18th overall. Maybe that sounds right to some of you guys, but to me that seems just a little low, right? 18th. They're technically closer to the worst team in the league than they are to the best team, which seems a bit harsh to me, but you guys let me know down below in the comments. This guy pointed out that Dallas's win total in 2025, projected by some sports book out there, is set at 7.5, which is the lowest since 2003. The Cowboys are only favored in just 6 games this year. They have a win total sitting at 7.5. Which kind of seems a little bit low too, but that's what it's at. Vegas is typically pretty good with these things, but some teams behind Dallas. At 19, you have the Cardinals. At 20, the Steelers, the Falcons, the Jags, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Patriots, the Raiders. Is that a group of teams that you really want to be connected to? At 17, ahead of Dallas, they have the Seahawks with Sam Darnold at quarterback. So let's talk about some of their rationales for why they have Dallas ranked at 18. And of course, anything with the Cowboys, anybody that's not a Cowboys fan, the first thing that they're going to bring up is the championship drought and the pressure that comes along with it. Pretty much, there's pressure on the franchise. And I guess that's true. Historical pressure is real. No one gets the attention that Dallas does. No one gets hated on more for their championship drought. Dallas is just super popular. That's a fact. And I do think that there is unnecessary and very necessary pressure on this franchise. All of the stuff that Jerry Jones has done throughout his life with marketing this team, that's his doing. And he's done it to his own team, and I love it because you guys like the Cowboys. I like the Cowboys. There's a lot of people out there that enjoy watching this team, watching people cover those. So I do appreciate that. But does the last 30 years really have that much of a impact on this team in 2025? I don't think so. I just talked about it. Their win total is set at 7.5 this year. Technically, that's the lowest bar and set of expectations that this team has had in what, 22 years? I've always felt like the Cowboys were better when this team had zero expectations. If you just go down the list, I like to think back to really good Cowboy seasons and then what happened the year after. And then think about really bad Cowboy seasons and then think about what happened after. So you look at 2014, Romo was going crazy. Des Bryant was awesome. The Cowboys lose to the Packers in the playoffs. Dallas ends up bringing most of their guys back. And then Romo gets hurt in 2015, and that season is a disaster. 2016, Romo gets hurt again. Everybody's like, okay, this is the same thing as the year before in 2015. It's going to be a disaster. Dallas has to play a rookie 4th-round quarterback, and they dominate. They win 13 games and almost beat the Packers in the 2016 playoffs, with a fourth-round rookie quarterback. So what happens after the 2016 season? Oh, well, Dak wasn't nearly as good. He didn't take the step forward that people thought he would after his rookie season. They missed the playoffs and barely went above 500. And I can go on and on with these examples. Those are just recent examples. So I'm actually glad that Dallas has been so low on some of these lists and that their win total is so low. It might not have a single thing to do with how they play in 2025. But it always seems like this team is much better when there are no expectations, or at least low. So give me the underdog Cowboys. Next, they talk about the coaching change. Obviously, Dallas ended up hiring Brian Schottenheimer after not interviewing all of the names that we thought they should interview with Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. They did end up interviewing Robert Saleh and Kellen Moore, but they made a very unpopular move at the time in hiring Schottenheimer, a first-time head coach, a guy that hadn't had head coaching interest in a decade. And I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't like this hiring at all at the time, not one bit. I thought that it was a cowardly hire. I didn't think it was trying hard enough to win, doing enough for a franchise that had their franchise quarterback, had their franchise wide receiver, had a Hall of Fame edge player. It just felt very cowardly because it was someone that they were familiar with. Their coaching search literally went down the hall and took a right, and it was the first door on your left. That was kind of the coaching search, but it happened. I can't do anything about it. But I will admit, I like the hiring a lot more now. But just after seeing how Dak vouched for him, the players seemed to really like him, the coaching hires that he made after he was hired were fantastic with Clayton Adams, Connor Riley, Matt Eberflus. Shoddy is really good in the media. There's been a lot to like about his head coaching tenure so far. Now, was it risky? 100%. It's probably why it's one of the lowest win totals since 2003, right? We don't know really anything about Shoddy as a head coach, and that hire could be the reason that this team exceeds expectations, or 2025 is an absolutely abysmal year in Dallas. So sitting here today, not knowing anything about Shoddy as a head coach in a regular season game in the NFL, I am much more positive about the hiring than I was a couple of months ago. So far, he's proven me wrong up to this point, but we got to get into the regular season and see where this head coaching hire ranks amongst the league. What do you have in the guy leading your team? They continue into the Cowboys roster, the offseason moves, their concerns. If you look back at previous Dallas off seasons, what they had done to make their team better, this was probably one of the best free agency periods, trades, everything that Dallas did in like 10 years. The biggest move they made was gambling on George Pickens, getting the Steelers wide receiver one. Obviously, Pittsburgh wanted out of that. He's due a contract next year, but it doesn't matter. Dallas needs him for 2025. When's the last time that they made a move like that? What? Amari Cooper back in 2018. They gave up a first-round pick for him, ended up extending him to a big contract. I mean, outside of that, when's the last time that it felt like this team had a glaring issue, a glaring hole in their roster, and they said, let's go fix it? They did it. Wide receiver 2 was a major concern. Now it's not a concern at all, and you have one of, if not the best wide receiver duo in the entire NFL. They also bring up how the Cowboys running back room with Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and rookie Jaden Blue might be the worst in the NFL. I can't argue with that one, but I will argue that bringing in Clayton Adams and Connor Riley is a major upgrade in your run game as a whole. Maybe you don't have the talent back there. You don't have a Saquon Barkley. You don't even have a Tony Pollard, at least that we know of yet. I'm still going to trust this coaching staff to put these guys in a position to be successful, not pick favorites, pick the best guy to win the job, and let them go out there. I tweeted about this a couple of days ago, but go look at Clayton Adams' success with the Cardinals. Look at that offense's overall success rate running the ball. It is unbelievable. Like, they had James Conner, somebody that was okay in Pittsburgh. He wasn't, the craziest, best running back you've ever seen, but he was extremely efficient in Arizona. And I think a lot of that had to do with Adams being able to get Will Hernandez to play above his pay grade. So I'm more so gambling on that, but I do understand that concern. And then their final major concern is the offensive line. That was a problem last year. Terrence Steele ranked 65th in pass blocking in 2024. Left tackle Tyler Guyton ranked 60th. I can't really argue that one either. Once again, the offensive line coach and the guy that's the offensive coordinator now, that used to be an offensive line coach, Connor Riley, coming from Kansas State, is now the offensive line coach in Dallas. I am putting all my chips on those guys over Mike Solari. I don't need to get into all that. You guys if you've watched the channel, you know I had a big problem with Solari. I just think I'm going to push all my chips and say the offensive line will be much better on the ground and in pass pro than they were in 2024. So the final thing that they pointed out was the defenses fall off after Dan Quinn left. Dan Quinn's defenses in DVOA ranked 4th, and then 5th. Then in 2024, it dropped to 24th. And to that I say, of course it did. I don't even need to go down the list of injuries that this team had last year, not even mentioning that the offense could not move the ball with Cooper Rush. The defense was out on the field the entire season, it felt like. Micah Parsons was down. DeMarcus Lawrence was out. Sam Williams, Marshawn Nealon, Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland. Like, if you're not going to blame it on Mike Zimmer, blame it on the amount of injuries that side of the ball had. It's no wonder that the Cowboys finished 31st in points allowed and 28th in yards allowed. When the team is decimated that bad, and I do think that they started getting better with Mike Zimmer towards the back end of the season. One, because they started getting guys back healthy, especially Micah Parsons. But with a new defensive coordinator, I just don't think that this 24 season was much of an indicator on how this unit is going to play in 2025, because there were so many injuries. And that brings me to what Yahoo Sports thinks is the best and worst case outlook for this team. We're going to start best case. 2024 was a one-off. Schottenheimer is a surprise head coach. Prescott stays healthy, Pickens clicks with the offense, and they sneak into the playoffs. This one I can kind of get behind, right? Maybe not sneaking into the playoffs. That is quite a few things that have to go right. Schottenheimer has to be able to lead an NFL team, lead an offense, be the play caller. Dak has struggled staying healthy over the past half decade. Pickens is a new receiver that they're going to rely really heavily on. And even if all of that goes right, this guy thinks that they just barely sneak into the playoffs. And maybe that's just because of the schedule that they have. It is a really tough schedule despite them not having to play a first place one. I think if all of those things go right, Dallas is not going to have to sneak into the playoffs. Worst case scenario, they say, there's roster holes, bad coaching hire, the NFC East gap widens, and another wasted year in the Jerry era. In my opinion, that worst case scenario tells me that Dak Prescott got hurt. Dak Prescott has never had a losing season when he started a majority of games in a season. Now, this might be the first time that happens. Maybe there are roster holes on the defensive line. You have questions about your left tackle and right tackle, and maybe that becomes a problem. But I don't see the NFC East gap widening a whole lot. I don't think the Commanders are much better or better at all than Dallas. The Eagles lost quite a few people from their Super Bowl run. I'm not sure I see the gap widening so much that Dallas goes 0-6 in the NFC East. Which brings us to the crystal ball, what they think's going to happen. I'm going to let you guys argue it out in the comments. I feel like I've been talking forever now. But they say the Cowboys can compete to be the second best team in the NFC East, but don't expect a deep playoff run. You guys let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to see me break down Savon Ravel's All 22 from ECU, please go check out my Patreon, a full 25-minute video, not edited at all, just me, breaking down the film, telling you what I look for in draft prospects, what I look for in Cowboys rookies, what you should expect from him this coming season. Go down there, the top comment on this video or the top link in the description. I love you all, and I'll see you guys very soon. Please hurry up, training camp.